my name is Jess Brondo, and I'm going to talk to you about the top 3 things that you can be doing to improve your study skills for any test that you're taking. And this is part of the Edge and College Prep's Test Prep Tuesdays video series on YouTube. So to kick things off, I'm going to discuss things that you can use on any test. And as we go along, each week we'll probably focus on some techniques that are specific to certain exams like the SAT or the ACT. But there definitely will be a ton of information here that's applicable to all tests. So to start out, I want to discuss things that are going to be a bit counterintuitive to you when thinking about how to study. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the length of time that you're studying, because you probably think that the longer you study, the better, and that's actually not the case. And I hope that parents out there aren't too sad about what I'm saying. But there is a big concept in education called recency and primacy. And basically what that means is that our brains remember what we learn first and what we learn last in a study session, and that middle chunk of material gets sort of lost somewhere in our minds. So if we are going to study for 4 hours, there is going to be a massive middle chunk that we're going to end up forgetting. So in order to minimize the amount of material that we're going to forget, what we want to do is create less of a middle chunk. And in order to do that, what we want to do is minimize our study sessions. So an ideal way to study for any test is to break up the material that you're studying into chunks and study each little section for about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at most. Because what that does is it gives you only a tiny little middle portion to forget. So an ideal thing is you study for 20 minutes, then you're going to want to go do something that totally gets your mind off of studying, whether it is watching a 30-minute television show, going on Facebook, going to grab something to eat, talking with your parents. Anything that is not studying is totally fine. Then after your break, you want to come back to your study material and you want to review what you had just studied before getting into any new material. And it's basically like giving yourself a mini quiz just to make sure that you're not forgetting anything important that you just spent 30 minutes learning. So if you do that, what's going to happen is you're really actively using your mind to remember everything that you're doing. And so the next tip in the top 3 tips that you can use to study for any test is note cards. And I know that you're probably thinking that note cards are an old concept, but you want to utilize note cards to really maximize their effect. And I'm sure that a lot of you have seen that different bookstores are actually selling lots and lots of pre-made note card sets. And while those are good for kind of giving you an idea of what you need to study, the main benefit of note cards is kind of lost if you buy them. And the reason why is because the main benefit of note cards comes from the act of creating them. So our brains remember what we write down. So whether we're making a note card or a study sheet, the act of writing it down is really what's getting us to remember that concept. So if we buy a pre-made pack of note cards, what we're doing is we're eliminating that benefit of writing it down. So looking at that set of note cards, we know what we have to study, but the act of writing it and memorizing it is getting lost. So ideally what you want to do is buy a blank set of index cards or just a blank sheet of paper and create your own study sheet of concepts that you're having trouble with or massive concepts that you're going to need for whatever test you're studying for. And if you do this gradually throughout the year, what you're going to end up with is your own extremely comprehensive set of note cards for whichever class that it is for. So that's topic number 2. Now topic number 3 in terms of our study skills is what we call a wrong question journal. And I can't emphasize how important it is to really make a wrong question journal. And you're probably asking us, what is a wrong question journal? So a wrong question journal is a place for you to keep track of any question that you're getting wrong. So anytime you do a drill, a quiz, a practice test, or a homework, you're going to want to notice any questions that you're getting wrong. You're going to want to write them down, or at least just write down where that question is found, and write down the concept needed in order to get that question right. Then, when you're studying, you know what your trouble areas are and what you need to focus on. So, in general, when we're prepping students for the SAT, any of our students get a wrong question journal when they start with us. And we track any question that they get wrong throughout the duration of their program. Then, if we meet with them 1 week and we write down all the questions that they got wrong, at their next session, before starting on any new concepts, what we're going to do is give a little mini quiz where we're going to review all the questions in that wrong question journal to make sure that our students can answer them correctly on their own. And that's one of the things that differentiates us from other tutors. A lot of tutors will meet with a student, go over all of the wrong questions, and then never revisit them again. And that does a major disservice to a student, because unless the student can answer the question on their own, it really doesn't matter whether we can explain it to them or not. What makes a difference is that the student or you can answer it on your own. So make that wrong question journal, write down the concept that you forgot for whatever question you got wrong, and while you're studying, really focus in on those questions and those concepts, because those are obviously the ones that are giving you the most trouble. So those were just 3 big tips to help you study on any test, and I'll be back next week with some more specific tips to help you ace your SAT.